Let us do the talking, just relax and unwind. Laugh your ass off, baby, have a good time. Robin, Youssef, yeah, we something sublime. Run your mouth, bitch, yo, we out of our minds.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Run Your Mouth podcast. We've got an exciting episode for you this week. We're going to squash the beef with the FagCast. It's been a long time running. They did some really terrible things, but, they're a bunch of statists, and they were inspired by the government, that the government was able to work out its differences, and if the government can work out its differences and reopen, the FagCast guys said, hey, we can work out our differences with the Run Your Mouth podcast. We're going to call into their show, and we're going to apologize for our wrongdoings. Mike, do we have him? Do we have him on the line?
Yes, sir, Mr. Bernstein.
All right, so I'm prepared to hear him out. I'm ready to hear what these nice guys have to say. Harrington, are you okay with this?
I mean, Robbie, it's your show, man.
I'm gonna let bygones be bygones, but we're all on board with this. We're okay. We're gonna squash it.
You are the fearless leader. Whatever you say is the plan, I'll go with.
All right, so patch him in. Chicken Man, Mr. Armpit, are you guys here?
Yeah, you are a lying bastard, Robbie Bernstein. That's what you are.
That's no apology. Harrington, I thought we were good. I thought we worked out for an apology.
No, we just.
This is called the long con, Robbie Bernstein.
What the fuck is this?
We fooled you. We goaded you into bringing us on, and here we are, and we're gonna stab you right in the back.
All right, well, can we at least call a timeout? Because I thought we were going to have a pleasant interview. I thought maybe we were going to exchange ideas on liberty. I didn't realize that we were continuing. I thought you guys were ready to apologize for the terrible things that you said about me, my podcast, and the horrible things you've done for the liberty movement at large.
Quite the contrary. I believe we have a list of grievances. Bird.
Yeah, well, number one, he's Robbie the liar Bernstein. He lied about us taking his episode down. That's a lie.
Yeah, what the hell was that all about? You come out of the blue with that. We're just over here podcasting, and then I'm like, man, I'm listening to Part of the Problem. I'm patronizing Dave Smith here, and then this guy chirps in and says, "FagCast taking us down." And I had even taken the extra step to go listen to Run Your Mouth podcast after you plugged it on the Part of the Problem, and here we are. What's going on?
I know that it was you guys, because you're really. Our audience is not that large of enemies, and somebody had an episode taken down, and I know that you guys were after us, and it was dirty play. Listen, I understand that we're both in the liberty movement, and we're trying to grow our audiences, and we're trying to do what we can to both spread our ideas of liberty and kind of grow our followings. So I know what you did. I get it. I'm willing to forgive you guys for it, but it was dirty play, reporting us for defamation. It wasn't cool.
No, it's dirty play to lie about you reporting yourself for defamation just to set it up for this episode.
Can I actually say, lie. I'll just say that wasn't my favorite episode that we did. So self-reporting yourself for defamation on bad content is actually not a bad move.
It's maybe not. Maybe we should consider doing that.
I haven't done that yet, but that's not a bad move.
It wasn't our favorite episode either, but I haven't come across too many that have been,
it wasn't your best work.
My favorite episode. So maybe continue that trend, Robbie.
What you mean of bad episodes?
Yeah, just keep pumping them out and keep canceling them.
No, it wasn't canceled. You guys had it removed. But listen,
I don't know where you're coming from with this.
Let's move past that. No. Let's let bygones be bygones. Let's be friends, and let's get into it a little bit. There's a lot of news going on. There's shit to discuss. First and foremost, I went skiing this past week. I'm a big skier. I see the snowboard there in back of the armpit guy. But you live out in Texas, right?
Yeah. I live in Texas right now.
Are you even able to, where do you snowboard in Texas? I guess you always got to hop a flight when you do it?
Man, I usually just drive back. I moved here from Colorado, so I usually just drive back, see my friends, and shred.
How long? That's a crazy. I don't know geography.
Yeah, it's like 14 hours.
Oh yeah, that's a fucking hike. And what about you, Chicken Man? Are you a skier at all?
Fuck no, I'm not a skier. I wish that we had videos so that you could see me. You'd be like, yeah, definitely not a skier.
Why, are you a big out of shape dude?
Oh yeah.
How fat?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, it's too bad I couldn't be in studio for it.
How fat are we talking here, Chicken Man?
Not too bad, but enough that if I was to get on a skateboard or a snowboard or anything like that, there would be problems. There would be a lot of tippage.
Wow, we didn't even need to roast this guy, Harrington. He just did it for himself.
Well, look, I gotta be honest. I'm not a fucking liar like you. You gotta be honest about it.
Firstly, I thought we were going to let that drop. I know that it was you guys, but I'm willing to move past it. I'm willing to go, listen, I get what they did there and move on. If you guys keep bringing it up, we're not going to be able to move forward here. So can we let that one go?
Fine.
Can we be cool?
Listen, Harrington.
All right, Bird.
We'll
What do you think?
Listen, I get that maybe you're stressing out. I get that maybe you're stressing out and you're already feeling like you need a snack. I understand. I was fat myself, but I really thought we were going to let this one slide.
Fine, we'll let it slide. We'll let it slide this time.
Okay, and we'll send you some candy bars in the mail to call it even. I know how to win.
Next time I come to the studio, have a burger at the ready. I'll scarf that bitch down and we can do some talking.
All right. Hey, let me ask you this, because, this is the ADD in me that I'm already bored of the ski talk, because I also went to Queens College, which I hated. Mm-hmm. What's your lunch spot?
At Queens Geno's.
Geno's, okay.
Geno's Pizza.
I was still keeping kosher at the time, and so I went to I think to Benji's Pizza just about every day. No, not Benji's, the other one. Fuck, I don't even remember the name. I'll have to get back to you on that, but I ate some good pizza there. All right, let's get back to the skiing thing.
Yeah, man, where'd you go?
So I went to Mad River Glen, which is skiers only.
Okay.
Have you do you ski at all, or you only snowboard?
No, I only snowboard really.
You only snowboard. Okay. So, I mean, I ski, and this place, Mad River Glen, is super cool. It's skiers only. They have one single chairlift. It's only natural snowmaking. And really, the only time that you can go is after a good storm. And one of the things, skiing is my favorite thing in the entire world. But one of the strategies that I've changed over the recent years, you're from Colorado, it's a lot different. I live in the Northeast, and I've planned trips and gone up there, and conditions are okay. And the thing about conditions when they're okay, it's fun. It's a little bit like, pizza or blowjobs. You can't complain. It's fun. It's not like a good slice of pizza, and it's not like a good blowjob. And if you're not bird or kissed, you know the difference. So anyways.
I swear to God. I'm going to go to that studio. I'm going to hang you.
It's going to take a couple. We're rocking the vending machine back and forth. It's going to take a couple. We'll get out of this rut. We'll get out.
Robbie, where is that studio, by the way?
You're welcome
anytime.
anytime.
A parking garage I could bring a truck with fertilizer full of it into.
Listen, we can go fisticuffs anytime, buddy. I'll take my chance. How tall are you?
No, I'm a midget too, dog. I got the great being fat midget combo, my friend. So
you're short and fat. I don't think you'd have a chance.
Yeah. No,
what do you
I always
think,
rolled
Armpit?
with the crew. I always rolled with the classic Queens crew. I was the little one.
Armpit,
brains.
No, I'm bringing the muscle in this podcast.
Who do you think would take down this fight between me and the Chicken Man? It sounds like
I got my money on Bert.
Wait,
he's a bowling ball. He's a low muscle.
His little muscle.
That's right. And I could box.
Do you actually know it? Like, have you boxed before?
Yeah, I could box.
Okay. Do you got knockout power? This could be interesting.
No, I'm a jab kind of guy. In, out, around. Bob the head, weave, jab.
But if you're big, don't you just start breathing real? What are you gonna breathe hard at me? Just disgust me? Is that what the plan is?
Dude, Robbie, you joke, but his breathing is very, very distracting. It's crazy. It'll throw you right off.
It's like somebody snoring. I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
like sleep apnea.
It's brutal.
So back to the skiing tale. So the first thing I did, which was just a little bit weird of me, is now I don't plan ski trips. If I see that there's a giant storm, I try and basically either get snowed in or go right after the storm. And so to speak to that point, so I skied this mountain, Mad River Glen. I've been wanting to get back there for 4 years, but conditions were never good when my friends were going. I got up there, one of the best ski days of my entire life, and then already by the next day, it rained and you couldn't ski that mountain anymore. But what I did, which was weird, I just went to the mountain alone for 2 days. And then the other thing that's weird about skiing itself, when you get there, it's a little bit stuck in time. It's one of the, almost weird places I can show up to where everyone's listening to my music. You show up and, at the bar there, they just have deep cuts going of Widespread Panic. On the mountain, they're playing, old Bob Weir tunes. So...
Yeah.
My first question is, and because I remember this with bowling alleys. Bowling alleys used to be like a rundown, divey kind of thing, and then they went trendy. Now they've all been taken over. It's not quite disco, but it's modern music. They made them all nice. Is that going to happen to my ski resorts? When is that wheel going to turn? When the investors come in and it becomes more expensive, fancy, and just not what we like?
Man, I think to some degree it's a little bit inevitable. And the place that I just went, I just got back 2 weeks ago from Crested Butte, and Vail just bought them. And so I'm just I'm dreading that, man. I'm dreading, because you're right, man. Part of skiing is just getting that old school vibe, divey, just go kill yourself on the mountain and then kill yourself drinking and just call it a day. And I do not want disco balls and I don't want glitz and glam. And it's really, really upsetting to see that direction.
It's funny because not only is the glitz and glam annoying, it becomes more expensive. It's not like all of a sudden they made the value of it worse to you, and now you can save money. They'll give you like a grumpy coupon because you can't get with the times. Like it costs you more money. All right, so but this is what I was leading into at this, is I was just kind of, while I was alone on the mountain, a man got to thinking, and I realized that part of, I think, what makes me identify or has kind of led me to being a libertarian is that I'm a little bit weird. And so if you have group events, I don't want to be a part of your group event. You know what I mean? Like usually the group activity is just not what I want to do. And I grew up with two sisters and there was always, hey, we're going to do this family thing. Well, let's do the family thing that I want to do. Let's go go-karting. Well, no one in the family wants to. Then it's not a family activity. You're forcing me to do the activity that you want to do. It's not like, and so I do feel that way just in general in life, where it's like, you know, there's that idea of, hey, we're all going to do something as a group. And if you're the person who doesn't like what the group's doing, it's very easy to kind of be like, well, fuck this whole group thing. I don't want to be in your dumb group if it's just going to impose on me to do all the shit that I don't want to do. Which I think just in having weird tastes, it kind of, your brain just becomes wired for, hey, fuck being in a group.
Yep, I agree. And I actually, so I went on that ski trip with a family, which introduces a whole new component, right? So like I've got the entire, not the entire, I speak like I have a huge family. I don't really have that big, but we had 6-7 people there. And you're combining and nobody else was terribly good at skiing or snowboarding. So I was kind of off on my own. But you have a week where you're trying to pursue this solo activity, but then make plans and make rules and make. And I'm like, that's just not what I want to do. I want to wake up at 7. I want to drink a few beers, and then I want to go get like crazy on the mountain for a while, and then maybe take a nap. Like I don't want all your shit. It's crazy.
I agree with you. I have that sometimes when I get nervous when like people who haven't skied want to go skiing and you're like, no, you're going to ruin my trip. You're not going to want to wake up to make it for the first lift. We're going to get on the mountain. I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to go ski these double blacks and I'll see you in 2 hours. And then you're going to be offended that I don't want to spend time with you. I agree 100%. What about you, Burderkiss? Other than eating, I don't know what other hobbies you might have, but have you also experienced, I guess, being a group outsider that you feel kind of also growing up just kind of wires you for the libertarian identity?
You know, I think where I come from it is I actually am more of a group person. I'm an extrovert by nature. And what I found about the liberty movement that attracted me to it was that it was finally a group of people where I knew where the end was. That if we had a disagreement, I could trust that this person was not someone who would turn on me or go, there should be a law against that or whatever. And I remember in college, freshman year of college, I got involved with the Young Republicans. So I go to a Young Republicans meeting at Queens College, which, as you can imagine, is...
Because I just assumed you showed up to Queens, you're like, I'm not cool. Who else here isn't cool? And then you found the Young Republicans.
You know, I don't know if I want to be that guy. I was cooler than not in high school, and I lost all that when I went to Queens College.
That happened to me.
Get it again.
Oh my God. Can we get into that a little bit? I know that we're diverting here because I lost all of my cool in Queens College as well. I'll tell you what. Here's just what failure killed my cool. Like when I was a very carefree person. I didn't give a shit about anything ever. I don't know, which to me is kind of cool. But then Queens College, I did very well there. For years, I did well in college. I was like close to a straight A student. Never showed up to class. And then I hit some classes where the information wasn't in the textbook and just failed and felt really shitty about myself. The other thing I like, what's great about Queens is it's cheap as fuck. I think it's like $2,500 a semester. So
a little more than that these days. But
I'm sure
it still is cheap.
Yeah, it's cheap. So I left school debt free, which is great. I was also able to do stand up comedy, which was great. But in terms of experience, you kind of show up and it's people who, a lot of Asians who want to get ahead in life and they're not hanging out. It's a commuter school. You got your Jews who are religious, don't interact with other people. You've got your Asians who are just there.
Yeah, what is the deal with that?
What?
There's a group of Jewish students who just don't interact with anyone else at the school.
Yeah, I was one of those kids.
Oh, really? What is that deal? What's the deal there?
Yeah, so the deal there is that, well, firstly, it's a bit of a focus thing that I guess they kind of have their friends and like so they're just showing up there to do school, which I found was true of the Asian kids as well. It's a commuter school. You got a lot of people who are showing up to go to class, get their degree, get their job, and get the fuck out of there. And so a lot of the, like when I was there, the first year that I was there, like I used to go to a Jewish studies school in the morning. I was there till 2 p.m. So by the time I got to college, like I was there just to get to class kind of thing. And then in the later years, I was smoking so much weed, I wasn't talking to anybody.
Yeah. You were just incapable.
Yeah, I was just so like,
really
yeah.
hitting the flow state.
I'll tell you now, do you enjoy Queens at all? Because I just hated it. Like it just, whatever, but I hated it.
No, I hate it.
Have you, do you drive there or how do you get there?
No, I bus. I got to take the fucking 88.
Okay, here's one of my favorite moments of all of life. I want to share it with the two of you guys because we're friends now. We squashed the beef. I was once
Squash the beef.
I was sitting out in my car at college. I think it was 10 in the morning, and it was just a rough week of life. And I'm sitting out in my car, and I opened up a 40 ouncer of Budweiser, and and I'm sitting in there, and I'm just drinking my 40 ounce of Budweiser, and I have a New York Post next to me, and this was when Charlie Sheen was in trouble. And mentally in my head, I was like, you know what? Someone like Charlie Sheen gets me. You know, like this is someone I can relate to. And I open up the article really excited to read about Charlie Sheen. And like in the interview, they asked him about drugs and alcohol. And he goes, well, as long as they're not just being some loser drinking in a car.
That's tough. We'll see the 40 ounce of malt liquor is really just like a potentially really tough scene, but also potentially pretty great. And you never know, like whenever you see somebody drinking a 40, you're like, you kind of do a judgment. You're like, is this really good or really bad? You know, like, is this guy going to go live under a bridge? Or is he going to party? You know, like, and that's the double-edged sword of the 40 ounces. But that used to be my go-to. I used to drink a 40 ounce of ice out and then go out to like a house party or maybe downtown. That was my favorite.
Hey, Mike, it seems like he's cutting out quite a bit.
Ounce right now.
Is there anything we can do about that?
No, I mean, just slow down.
You mean he should slow down while he's talking?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry about that. I'm a fast-ass talker, so I get why that's an annoying request from our producer. And believe me, we're going to put Mike into a closet and figure out this technology. Mike, any comments?
It better be on their dime.
On their dime? Okay.
We've been paying him this whole time anyway.
No, so
it's all on our dime. So it's all on our dime.
All right, so you were talking about 40 ounces. The only time I really drink 40 ounces, that was in the high school thing. I used to like those big 40s of Budweiser, and that's because I didn't have money as a kid, and the fact that you could get one of those for $2.50, I mean, even now it sounds like I grew up in the Depression.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's why I still drink 40 out. I used to 40 of ice out. It was like $1.21 gas station right around the corner from the apartment in college, and it was a perfect start.
All right, so kind of getting back into the Liberty conversation. So the first thing that I kind of just realized while I was out there is I do think growing up and being a bit of a weirdo, the idea of, hey, we're going to do something because the whole group wants to do it, I kind of felt like, well, I'm losing out in that relationship, so I don't like that. The other thing is I would just say by nature, I'm very anti-authoritative. Like the idea that someone can tell me what to do or feels like that they're above me. Like there's a bully side of me that's just like, hey, fuck you. Like you're not more important. You're not smarter. You just got this dumb power thing. Like I've just even at every aspect of my life, like all the way back to high school, you know, I just kind of would kick shit around if someone felt like, hey, I'm in charge of you. So I'm wondering if you guys just have that, you know, psychological bent as well.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I remember growing in 2008, George Carlin passed away. And that's when I heard of George Carlin. And you know, that's George Carlin's whole message is fuck you, you're not the boss of me, all that. So that's where I came into it, 2008. And not because of Ron Paul, just because of the George Carlin thing. So yeah, I've always been of that mind too. Just don't fucking tell me what to do. You're not better. All that. I feel you on that. Did you come to comedy?
You mean to being a libertarian?
Yeah, because I've spoken to a lot of people where that's the way they came in was through comedy. Scott Horton is one of those people.
So that's okay. So I would say a couple years ago, my my take on government was I was pretty much what you would call like a New York City Democrat, which I was very fiscally conservative, but socially liberal. So my idea on government was like, hey, there's really no part of you to be a part of my social life. You shouldn't be weighing in on gay marriage. Like that just has nothing to do with you. But on the same note, like government should just be as responsible with money as possible. And that I just kind of see the usage of debt as being corrupt. So that was kind of my starting point. From there, I kind of saw, I was a little bit more hardline conservative on the fiscally conservative thing, which was kind of, hey, I think government is inept, and so we should just have as little of it as possible. That was kind of my viewpoint. Like, in whatever way we can constrict it, we're better off. The thing that kind of changed my attitude a little bit was finding Doug Stanhope, and I found Doug Stanhope because I used to do open mics in the city all the time, and there was this website called badslava.com, and on the bottom of Bad Slava, they had all these famous comedians. They had like Dave Chappelle, Louis C.K., like all the biggest names in comedy. Then there was this other guy who I didn't know who he was. And I was like, who's this other guy who seems to get top billing on this website with all these other super famous comics? And I found him, and he was Doug Stanhope. And now, back then, every time I got on stage, it was like my shtick. I was drinking beer. It was a really stupid, expensive party trick that didn't help my comedy career and wasn't that funny. But I just thought being on stage with a beer at an open mic that you paid for made you cool. It didn't. So take that note, kids. But anyways... people who were smarter than me tried to tell me, hey, you're not cool that you're just drinking beers all the time. And then I found this guy, Doug Stanhope, was drinking on stage. And I was like, oh, this is my new idol. This guy gets it. And then he had some incredible jokes about liberty. If you haven't heard them, you should go look it up. Like, if you guys aren't familiar, he's got that amazing joke about marriage. Do you ever hear that joke?
No.
The marriage joke by Doug Stanhope. No, I don't think so.
So here's the joke. Is basically, here's the thing about me. Like, you're basically saying, hey, baby, what we have going on here is so good. We got to get the government in on this. Like, that just so that just so encapsulate. Like, what is government? Why do I need it in my life? The other one he had was this joke I'm going to botch. But he had this joke about, like, there's that old phrase, if you you can teach a man to fish. You know, he can eat, like, if you buy a man a fish, he can eat for a day, teach a man to fish, he can, eat for a lifetime. But what they don't tell you is that he's got to go down to the DMV and he's got a permit. And even if he has the permit, where's he going to gut the fish? And then he's going to have to pay taxes before he just goes on this whole thing that also just shows you the corruption of government. So through Doug Stanhope, I then, before him, I didn't even know that there was this word libertarian, that there was this other group. And I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. I like where this is coming from. And then I also became very good friends with Dave Smith. I used to see him, we used to perform at LOL all the time. And independent of him, I started reading David Stockman's book. This is when me and Dave used to bond. We used to be people like we just kind of drank. And one day I didn't even realize Dave was nearly as knowledgeable as he was. But one day I was looking around David Stockman's The Great Deformation. It popped up to on my radar because I always kind of had a bit of a view about financial corruption in the U.S. and the Fed that I couldn't wrap my head around. I do have a finance background from being in college, and I also kind of really was in college and was affected by the last recession. And I had written a lot of college papers about the recession. I really had an understanding about credit asset bubbles and what the government did to that market. And when I saw the little blurb about David Stockman's book, I was fascinated. I said, I got to go read this. And I pulled that out of my bag, and Dave's just jaw dropped. He's like, holy shit, I read that book, which I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe that Dave had already read that. And from there, Dave kind of turned me on to Murray Rothbard and changed my views on a bunch of things. Because there were some things, like when it came to the military, like I was very, that one I would have told you, like, hey, I don't really understand foreign policy. Maybe it's important for us to have I've totally changed my mind on that. So I guess that's kind of the long answer to how I kind of fell into this.
Yeah, so it sounds like you kind of came into it from economic side, which is definitely the way that I would say that I got into it. And I think that's how Bird and I differ a little bit. But yeah, I've got great Deformation on the bookshelf behind me.
Have you read it?
That was a great book. Oh, yeah.
What about, did you read Trumped? That was his new one.
No. Is that Stockman as well?
Yeah, that was his new one. I find with Stockman, I tell this to anybody listening, when you're reading his books, just move forward. Like, you'll pick up on the themes. If you try and read every single paragraph and then stop and go, hey, did I really understand this, and reread that paragraph, you're fucked.
Right.
It's just like,
yeah. Oh yeah. It's when you're reading Stockman, you're just driving a sedan in really loose sand. Like you just gotta like just keep the speed, and just try and coast through to some firm ground. That's
exactly. Like you're not going to understand all of it. It's really, really complicated. You won't even remember a lot of it, but you'll pick up on the themes, and especially the themes of corruption. And then you'll just know that there's good sound ground to kind of stake your positions on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, Mises is kind of the same way in a lot of regards, and Rothbard can be like that too. Although I think Rothbard does a really good job of breaking stuff down. Him and Thomas Sowell are probably the best authors I've read for really breaking things down into their core components and making you feel like you understood it.
Yeah. I kind of feel like the part of the problem audience has gotten ahead of me in terms of their, liberty knowledge and reading. I got to do my homework. I've fallen behind on two regards. Firstly is I got to be really up to date on weekly news. And I also have, I've grown a little bit in that I don't really feel like I'm responsible for other people's problems. And I also, in meeting people that I didn't know existed, like a Bob Murphy, I'm like, all right, this guy's going to have a better handle on libertarian economics than I ever will. Like, I'll leave that to him and I'll go read my sales books and get better at what actually pays my bills. But I've got a lot of kudos to all the people who actually take the time to do their homework and, and read this stuff. The other one, I got to give a shout out to this guy. I don't even know if you're familiar with him. Have you guys ever heard of George Reisman?
Yes. Yeah. I just read one of George Reisman's books about Marxism. I forget the name of it. It's a very long essay about Marxism, and it's just like 80 to 100 pages of him taking a shit all over Marxism. So yeah, I read that recently. So Reisman is a really good writer and somebody who I would probably drop that book into their lap and go, you want to learn about the liberty movement and what we are opposed to? There's your book.
Yeah, George Reisman is...
George Reisman, I would recommend.
He's phenomenal. Here are the essays to read from that guy. He's got the best essay on gun control, changed my mind on that. He's got the best essay on environmentalism, changed my mind on that, on healthcare. But where I came across George Reisman, and this was also one of the big things that, in kind of exploring liberty, is... I can't even find it, but I came across in college when I was like, researching credit asset bubbles and what was going on in the economy. He had this term called dollar diplomacy, where he was kind of talking about how America, we have our own form of imperialism, and it's by forcing the entire world to use the dollar. And he was talking about all the corruption that kind of comes out of that. And here's the different, it's almost emotional, it's almost intellectual. Sometimes I read something and it just kind of, your bullshit radar just kind of goes off and you're like, hey, this doesn't make sense to me. And if I open up the New York Times, sometimes that bullshit radar goes off and you're like, all right, this isn't for me. When I read that, it just gave me a clearer picture. That spark flew in my head of I think that's truth. That just sounds accurate. And what was crazy was in college, taking economics classes, I didn't know if he was someone I could even reference in a paper or if it was like some fringe, internet opinion that would get me in trouble. And then I looked up the Austrian School of Ec, and I'm like, oh, well, these guys are in Keynesian. I can't quote this. It's going to get laughed at. This is conspiracy theory shit. And then it took me a long time to come across Austrian economics and go, no, this is better. And that's who that guy was. And then go read more of his shit.
Yeah. You kind of back your way in and then you realize you're in a whole different room.
Absolutely. And
it's so different.
Sorry, and then, so what about you? So at Burderkiss, is there any particular, flash of lightning moment?
Yeah, Lysander Spooner's No Treason. Have you read that?
No, I have not. What is it?
So Lysander Spooner's No Treason. Lysander Spooner, as far as I can understand it, was a lawyer of some kind. I know he was an abolitionist. And the deal with him was that essay, No Treason, is basically a treatise on why the Constitution is not valid in his mind. And that was because I came from this as like a libertarian light, maybe classical liberal type of person, wasn't really interested in politics up until this moment. I read No Treason. It is a multi-page just dissection of what it would take legally to construct some sort of a social contract, and he pretty much breaks down why the Constitution does not fulfill those qualities. The old thing on Twitter of I didn't sign shit. It's basically a big essay on why I didn't sign shit. So that's where I came. That was the spark. I remember I was reading it on a Thursday at like 2 a.m, and I was like, "Holy shit! This is the first time ever I'm reading something that I feel like is connecting to me on a level where there was no hint of, is this person bullshitting me?" It was just very genuine, straightforward, and honest. So I would recommend anyone read that if you're interested in getting into the liberty movement.
That's an interesting one because have you guys read the book? This is turning really nerdy, by the way, but have you guys read the book Why Governments Fail?
What is that?
Is that
it's
Schiff
no.
or
It's a worthwhile book. It's also a big book, but one of the biggest things in there is he kind of talks about how freedom kind of really leads to economic development, and political structures that allow for freedom and entrepreneurship really prosper. And so if you look at like some of the largest tech developments, which is even the spinning wheel, which replaced the industries of, if you were a guy who weaves shirts or any of those other things, the explosive economic developments were because the governments in those areas were non-protectionist. And also kind of going back to what we were talking about in Finding Liberty, I remember once, if you guys, PJ O'Rourke, he was a big writer for National Lampoons. And I once came across, he had a book, it was similar. It was like the comedy version of Why Nations Fail. I didn't even read the whole thing, but I was fascinated by that question of why are some countries like what you have in Africa, where people are just starving and they have unbelievable physical resources there, and yet they're completely ass backwards. Venezuela, unbelievable resources, ass backwards. So it's got nothing to do with the resources of a country. It's got all to do with the political structures. Now, what's interesting about Why Nations Fail is the premise of that book is essentially that if you had a government constrained by a document, like a constitution, if we understood governments are going to try and grow and create power for themselves and create protectionist policies that, take wealth away from the people, if we can contain that with a document, it might be a recipe for success. And to me, the U.S. government is the proof of the failed experiment of a government contained by a constitution. Because that was the experiment. Like the forethought, they had great ideas about liberty and how a government could work with three branches being contained, and we tried it, we ran the experiment, and it failed.
Yeah, no question, and that I mean, Lysander Spooner really, I think, broke that down from like a different level. Like on one level, it's a pragmatic, and you can watch it play out, like we're watching in Venezuela and have watched for the last 5 years or 10 years. You can watch it Zimbabwe not that long ago, as they slipped into hyperinflation and progressed into a downward spiral. But Lysander Spooner, from a moral side, like the moral argument, I don't think anybody really makes it as succinctly as he does. The pragmatic arguments we observe as they happen in real time, like they're happening in Venezuela, as they slipped into hyperinflation not that long ago.
Got it. Okay, cool. So my next question for you guys is, I know the big thing for me, if you ask me kind of what can we do to fix things, what would you like to see change? So first and foremost, I would love it if it was actually in the Constitution that government can't run a deficit at all. I think that that's one of the biggest things that kind of creates corruption and allows the government not to really work in our interests. I think like that one thing could be a tremendous solve. I think the next thing that could be a huge solve is just getting rid of the Federal Reserve. I would love if we had sound money. I think we could have incredible economic development. And then the next big thing that I'd love to see is government as localized as possible, because I do think that there's competition among states for people. We're going to see that as more states go bankrupt. And I think that, like, I'd love to, like, in other words, I'm a big fan of the anarcho-libertarian, but I also, I think sometimes ideas look good on paper, and if you created that state, I would want to go live in it, and I'd want to run that experiment. But I also know for sales, you kind of have to, you got to prove the model. Just the fact that something looks great on paper, and you can make the moral argument, it's like, well, as morally good as it, if for some reason it just doesn't work, you don't know until you kind of do things. We all in our life have had great ideas, and when it comes to execute on great ideas, maybe it's just that people don't buy into it. And if people don't buy into it and they don't want to participate, all of a sudden maybe chaos happens. I can't tell you. The point is, you got to kind of prove the model. So to recap, number one solve I'd love to see is just government can't run a deficit at all. Number two is I'd like to see sound money because I know the economics and basically the prosperity that could follow. And then I'd like to see more localized government so that if there is a government, at least it's a little bit more reflective of your interests. You can vote by moving to places, and government can kind of operate a little bit more like a company and have to compete with each other. If you guys had to, like, I guess, suggest firstly what your fix might be, or what is your biggest gripe? What is the number one thing that, like, if you said, hey, I stand for something, and if you put me in charge, or if I had one theme or mission statement, this is the one thing I'd really like to contribute or see change?
Carter, you want to go first so you do it quickly?
Oh, yeah. I guess it's a little bit different for me because I'm an agorist, and so it would be a bottom up type deal, and coming up with goods and services that would economically incentivize people to use the voluntary version rather than the coerced. But if we're doing a top down model, and if I have to work with government, I don't see any problems with what you said.
All right, I like it. I like when people agree with me, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
Chicken Man, what do you got for us?
I also agree with you. The deficit in the Fed, to me, they would run one and the same in the way I would put it. If I can't pick either of yours, the two things I would like to see done that I think would work and could be practiced would be, I would like to, number one, I would like to see Congress start enforcing when we can take police actions and go to war. I would like to see them have to vote on it with a 2/3 majority, with an actual vote, not a spoken vote where they can hide in the crowd. That would be number one. That would be something I think could be practiced. That would make a huge difference in the overall view of what America's participation in the world is. The second thing I would like to see domestically, I would like to see super PACs dissolved, and I would preferably like to see as much lobbying dissolved as possible. Because at this point, people who are supposedly in that Constitution that people value so much, there are people who are supposed to represent us. And because of lobbying and because of super PACs, they have no obligation to do that for more than the 2 months that it takes to get people to vote for them. So I would say those two things that I couldn't ignore too.
Got you. One of the big things that actually changed my mind in terms of the big, having a big army kind of thing, because for a while I just didn't weigh in on that. I was like, I don't understand international politics that enough. Maybe there's a possibility if we didn't have some giant army, we're actually at risk of China pushing us around a little bit, or other people taking I just don't know. I don't get it. But the thing that really changed my mind, I'm a sales guy. I was talking about that before. I read this book called The Go-Giver. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it, but just this one line, I'm going to read it to you guys, really changed my perspective on, that's a picture of a different dumb sales line. The line that changed it, I think I remember it, was basically, he was saying, if you view the world as a dog-eat-dog world, there's always going to be a bigger dog. And really what he was trying to say is, like, if I want to be, and you see China doing it right now with the Silk Road, if I want to be cooperative with you, like, let's say, I'm out on a date with the Chicken Man, we're making amends, and I'm trying to have big fat gay sex with him, right? Let's imagine I was trying to do that. I wouldn't show up to that date with my divorce lawyer. I wouldn't spend money on a divorce lawyer. You want to be cooperative with other countries, it's by being cooperative. It's by making investments over there, creating trade opportunities. It's not by saying, hey, I've got this big old army. And China's doing that right now with the Silk Road. They're making investments in other countries, and they have better relationships with those countries. So on that basis, I don't believe that sometimes you gotta make the first step when it comes, like me. You guys tried to take down my content, and I invited you on my show to make amends. You see, it's proof of the concept.
Right. Proof's in the pudding.
All right. Yeah, go for it.
I was gonna just say I don't think in history, or I don't recall a country that's ever been a superpower without being an economic superpower. And I think that we have every interest in maintaining that, and the amount of waste that goes into military is crazy. That could be gone into production, and I think that would keep us safer.
100%. All right, so I got two more questions for you. So the next one is, tell us a little about your podcast. I know you guys got the FagCast. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what you guys do over there and why they should check it out?
You want to take a bird?
Yeah, we just interviewed Howie Snowden. That's going to be an episode that comes out. Everybody who knows who Howie Snowden is if you know him, you probably know him from Lines of Liberty. Specifically, you probably know him from libertarians in living rooms drinking liquor, right? If you've ever seen or listened to that podcast. The essential idea of our podcast was, libertarians take themselves very seriously, and sometimes to the point where you can hear a pin drop in a room if somebody disagrees with another person. And I think what we decided we wanted to do was we looked at Dave Smith's show. We looked at Lions of Liberty doing their special where they get drunk and they talk in a room. And we decided, hey, the Liberty movement could use more of this. Just people talking shit, having a good time. Does liberty come up in our show all the time? But it's laced into conversations about cryptids and whether or not politicians are aliens and lizards. So you get your goofs, and then hopefully we get to teach people some lessons every once in a while. But to do that all the time, I think there are more than enough podcasts that do the libertarian education thing well enough that we couldn't get involved in that. So it's a comedy podcast, libertarian themes. We like to keep it libertarian as much as we can. And then when we're not doing that, we're probably talking about Sasquatch. So That's the essential theme of the podcast.
And then every once in a while, they suck each other's dicks just to stay true to the name, which brings me to my next point. How do you guys even know each other if you're from, across the country?
He's my third
just through Twitter. There was a Twitter account, Anarchy Ball. He's actually on Instagram still, I think, that got a bunch of people together in like a group chat that were, all anarchist or minarchist or whatever. And we were in it, and I guess, I don't know, there was just like we just decided to start a podcast. So yeah, we've never met.
Love it. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on and squashing the beef. Like I said, I totally forgive you for having one of my episodes taken down from defamation. I hope that you don't do it again. But that's the love that I throw into that's the good vibes I throw out. I'll even forgive you. No, but in all seriousness, I checked out a few of your episodes. They're really funny. I like what you guys are doing, and I really appreciate you guys coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot, Rob. It was good squashing the beef.
Absolutely.
We'll probably be beefing against it.
We'll let the people of the internet know that the beef has been squashed. They can go back to just hating the government, How much?
Good.
Why do they got to pick sides between the two of us? Like, we can all focus our outrage on the one enemy at hand. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate you guys joining us. Have a good one.
Thanks, man.
Those were the people of the FagCast, which was a good time. Now, we got some quick news that I want to go through with you. We got Mike here, and first is we were in a phone call making mood. We spoke to the guys from the FagCast, and we were like, let's take some more calls. And so Mike Harrington, excellent at prank phone calls. You ever need to prank a friend of yours with an aggressive call? Mike Harrington is your man. And so we tried prank calling some art galleries to see if perhaps they could sell us a Hitler, because apparently those are just up for sale, Mike Harrington.
Well, I mean, I made very clear to, state that it was from before all the bad stuff.
No. You were very clear that you're just a wealthy man and that there's a lot of money in the market and that they could get a commission if they could just help you get your hands on a Hitler.
I literally had to ask 3 different people, hey, so you're telling me there's no way you can get me a Hitler?
So are you telling, I have $50,000 cash ready to go right now, and you're telling me that you can't get out there with all your art connections and find me a Hitler? And I guess the good people in New York City, they just said no, and you can't use this recording either. So you'll just have to take our word for it that we actually made those phone calls.
Can you use just my side of the recording?
I don't know. We can look up the law on that. I'm okay with it.
I think that should be fine.
It should be. It is, I want a Hitler so badly. I just think it's so fucking funny that you could have someone over to your house and they could go, that's a really nice painting. What is that? A Hitler. It would just be my favorite thing in all of life. I have, years ago, a buddy of mine, I'm going to ruin his joke, so I don't want to credit him to then have a bad joke. Actually, whatever. Dan Perlman, really funny comic.
Hysterical. Love Dan.
He had a really funny, this was early in open mic. I didn't really talk to him much, but this joke just made me laugh so hard that I became friends with him. He was telling this joke that he saw on a bookshelf the unauthorized biography of Hitler. And he's like, what could possibly be in the unauthorized biography? Like he ate too much cake at parties? Like, what is left from Hitler that he didn't want you to know? That this is the unauthorized biography.
Killed 6 million Jews and had a bit of a foot thing.
Yeah.
What?
Like I said, I don't think that was... his joke was something along those lines. I don't think I pegged this specific, but I was once at a used bookstore and they had a shelf of Hitler books. Giant books. I'm talking like 1,000-page Hitler books, right? And so I picked one of them up just because I was curious to see what it was. And on the back side of it, it was like fun. It was as if you were reading Snapple facts about Hitler. It was like, as a young boy at age 8, Hitler was in the choir. Hitler enjoyed blueberry bubble. And like, I just started cracking up because there was no mention on the back cover about him being the leader of Germany or the atrocities that happened. It was just like, here's a dude who lived and here's some fun facts about him.
Hitler fun facts?
Hitler fun facts. So I bought that book and I thought I was going to start just like, first I was going to give it to Danny P as a joke. And then I wanted to just start buying them and gift wrapping them to like give to people whenever they had parties. I thought I was going to make that my thing. But then I was curious one day, I was bored in my house and I opened it up to read it. And there was some fascinating little pieces about Hitler in there. Here's one that I really loved. Are you ready for this, Mike Harrington? So you would think Hitler, like, what's your vision of Hitler during World War II? Like when when he's calling the shots, what would be your vision of him as like a dude or him like as a leader? What would you think he was like?
A very loud, very angry guy. Like that's kind of the vibe I get from him, is that he's very hard to please.
You would think he was aggressive. You would think he had a true vision of what he thought for the world, a confidence like no man you've ever seen. But the real story of Hitler as a dude had terrible diarrhea. He had horrible intestinal problems, legendary farts, and he was so ransacked by anxiety and like he was shitting up a storm so bad, a doctor was hopping him up on basically speedballs. They had like this German version of cocaine. He was a cocaine addict, and then they were also dosing him up with like a morphine kind of thing. That guy was a fucking diarrheaed out junkie living in a bunker. That's the real Hitler.
Dude, this guy kind of sounds like a badass. And he painted?
And he painted. Well, the painting thing is not a bad painter, really.
Look.
Some of the colors, very, like you would think the paintings would be really Hitlery, and they're not. They're very tranquil.
I mean, if he'd only stuck with painting,
it would be a very different world.
I'm just saying, like, from the way you're describing him, you could make a case like, yeah, other than the 4 million Jews, there's 6 million Jews, he wasn't that bad of a guy. You know, he just liked to party.
If you could just look past that one thing, he was okay.
Just those 6 million and one things.
I said this joke on stage once at an open mic. It just wasn't funny enough to work. But I have a thing, like, I'm good with people based on my last interaction with them. Like, if my last interaction with you is good, we're cool. And if you were a cunt the last time, then I hate you. But then, you know, if I see you again and you're cool, we're cool again. Like I was saying, like if I drank a beer at a bar with Hitler and he was cool, I'd be like, yeah, all right, so he killed those 6 million people. But I don't know, I had a beer with him last week. He was pretty cool.
You know, he paid for schnitzel. He was a good dude.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know what all your beef with Hitler is. I had a beer with him. He's all right. Okay. Next thing is, I want to talk about this because I'm a sales guy, and I love sales. I mean, I've worked jobs that I've hated. I've had bad months. I've had bad years. But I'm just saying, in the macro, I very much enjoy kind of creating business and being on the phone. I think you're that way too, Mr. Harrington.
Dude, there's nothing I love more than just being a piker on the phone. Just seeing how long I can keep a secretary entertained. It's the best.
Yeah, there's something to it. It's kind of like that prank phone call that we just took, except you're playing a businessman. You're playing a different character, but it's basically a prank phone call. Like, you're not. I said this on a phone call this past week. I was so in character of that I was trying to close a deal. I said this with confidence. I wasn't saying it as a joke. I said it. It came out of my mouth. I was trying to close a guy on me being able to place ads with him. I was like, you don't understand. There is literally money falling off my desk right now. I have deals coming in that I can't close because I don't have the right inventory. Are you going to help me pick up this cash? Are we going to make this money together?
Hell yeah, dog.
I mean, it's just like insanity. It's so fun. But anyways,
dude, my go-to prank call, and this is my claim to fame. Legitimately, with all my friends growing up know me as Lieutenant Dan Einhart. I'm calling from the Manic Police Department. We picked up a Honda Accord. Had 4 friends in there. Looked like a Doobie Brothers concert. They were all smoking grass. I put them in 4 separate rooms, and these hard asses who ain't going to say a word, they start talking like 10-year-old girls eating ice cream at a slumber party. And you know what they're talking about? They're talking about you, Robbie Bernstein. They said that you're the one that sold them the grass, the icky sticky, the weed. All right? You're bringing drugs into my town where I play ball with my 4-year-old son in my front yard. I don't want him having a needle in his arm on the playground. All right? Get these drugs out of my town, Rob. And, I would like go on and on with this bit to the point where I actually had a friend of mine just break down in tears once in Grand Central, begging me not to bring police dogs to his home to ruin his father's 60th birthday party.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Even better would have been if you had a friend who just showed up to a police station to turn himself in.
Dude, we came close a couple of times. Like I had one kid narc on his boy who was with me.
Oh no,
dog! It was bad.
Oh no!
I was like, yo,
did he get killed?
All I want to know.
Don't admit to that on air.
All I want to know, who's driving the Lexus? And he's like, it's blank, like the kid's name. I hand the phone to the kid. He's like,
God.
You're fucking dead to me. Fucking fast forward 5 years later, that same kid comes up to me in a Starbucks. He goes, hey, what's going on, man? My name is James. Maybe you knew me under the name Bam back in high school. I'm like, oh, Bam, what's up, buddy? He's like, yeah, not too much, dude. I'm in school right now. I'm about to graduate with, like a pretty good GPA. I'm going to go to business school after this, that, the other. I want to let you know that prank phone call really changed my life. Yeah, I stopped hanging out with those kids. I really didn't have access to drugs anymore, so I got back on the straight and narrow. I actually got to turn my life around senior year of high school, got a scholarship, and got my whole life together because of that prank call.
I got to tell you, bullying, underrated. I have bullied people into losing weight. There are people living great skinny lives right now because I made them feel shitty for being fat. I did that for people. Here's one of those. Can I tell you one of those stories? I was on a 2-year. I did a 1-year Israel program between high school and college, right? And no one knew that I knew this kid. I was friendly with this kid. I played hockey with him. We went to like a 1-week like hockey clinic together, so I knew the kid. Everyone else from this program didn't know me. They didn't know my ball busty personality. They didn't know that I know this kid, right? So we're in the airport, and there's the 100 kids who are now doing this program all together. And I look around, and I notice that I'm the fat kid, right? Like I'm looking at everyone. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the fat kid. And then I noticed my friend, and I was like, no, he's the fat kid. And then I actually said to him, and I said this loudly, I was like, dude, it is so good you're here right now. Otherwise, I would be the fat kid on this program. Kids did not talk to me for like 6 months because they were like afraid. They're like, oh, I can't go near that asshole. Because they didn't even know that I knew that kid. But that kid lost like 75 pounds that year.
And you lost all your friends.
And then I put on that weight. So, who's the winner in that story?
The guy with the 6-pack.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So let's get into the news a little bit. First is obviously the Trump shutdown. It finally came to an end. It was the longest shutdown in American history, which it's nice to finally see Trump be the biggest and best at something,
Hell yeah.
He finally gets to put something on that record. Now this was an article that made me laugh. In Nashville, at the international airport, basically for the TSA workers who were working unpaid, they're there coming in every day doing work, not getting a paycheck. So people brought them Little Caesars pizza as if working without getting paid wasn't sickening enough. Are we really going to do this, the TSA? All right, so last thing.
$5, hot and ready.
Okay, the last thing I wanted to bring up is, and I forgot to send this to you. Maybe you could just find it real quick on YouTube. But Whoopi Goldberg had it out with Bill de Blasio over New York City bike lanes. And the actual clip, if you find, I think it starts at 5:11, or I could just, we're going to have to edit like crazy anyway, so I could probably email this to you over your way.
Whoopi Goldberg blows up ends the View interview with Judge whatever.
Yeah, and it's and the actual bike lane part is going to start at 5:11.
All right. Okay. Whoopi Goldberg slams de Blasio's View over bike lanes. You're going to go to 5:11, you said?
5:11 is when.
All right, let's see if I can find the video. This doesn't seem to have a video in the article.
Okay, so let me just forward it to your way.
Sure. Oh. Watch.
To our own people.
That woman is. And I like bikes. I like people who ride, but I don't think you understand the impact of taking something like 10th Avenue, which is 6 lanes, down to 2.5, particularly when you have a winter storm and you can't move. None of that is movable, so you can't get, nothing flows. Also, I'm upset that you love these bikes, but you don't tell people to put a helmet on. Oh, yeah. We tell children to put helmets on.
Well,
this is an issue, and you know, you haven't taken down the size of the trucks. So a giant truck that is bringing food to New York, which is, you know, we got 9-block-long trucks delivering, and they can't make the turns. What feasibility study did y'all do when you decided to put these in? Because I know a lot of places, I noticed they're not on Madison Avenue, and they're not on Park Avenue.
They're all over, Whoopi, respectfully.
All right, you can pause it there.
They're not on Park.
So here's what I love about Whoopi Goldberg. She's like, listen, I'm a working person who's just trying to take my car into New York City. Okay, fuck you, Whoopi Goldberg. You probably have a driver. Who the hell can afford to get into New York City by car? I'm the real working class, and I ride that bike line every fucking day. And I don't like de Blasio. I don't like government, but I love that fucking bike lane. I drive it. The fact that those buffers are there make me feel safer. There's other working class people who take that bike lane to work because the subway sucks, and we can't afford cars. We can't go from some mansion in Jersey in our car. Like, and she's complaining, oh, on snow days. There may be 3 snow days a year, and how lucky are you to have a car that's going to drive you to your job that pays you X amount of money a year? And not just that, fucking Whoopi Goldberg, you're messing with the craziest motherfuckers in all of New York City. You got to see the people, the people in the bike lane are the people like me who are so angry they're not going to put up with the subway, and so they'll bike at 3 in the morning in the freezing cold. I once saw they closed the Queensboro Bridge, and we had to take a free shuttle by the government across the Queensboro Bridge, and some dude yelled at those workers for 45 minutes straight, did not take a breath of air, as if it was there, just, you mother, like the most New York, you motherfuckers, you're always doing construction when I gotta, like, as if it was there 45 minutes straight. That's not the guy whose transportation options you want to take away.
No. You know, especially like these are people, Whoopi has to come on and say the government needs to tell you to wear a helmet. These people are brave enough to not wear said helmet.
That's true. I mean? They can probably use a concussion just to temper their anger a little bit.
They got balls on them, man. Don't fuck with those guys.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll be back next week with a new episode. Keep running your mouths, blah, blah. All right. Thank you.